ربكما تكذبان فيومئذ لا يسأل عن ذنبه إنس ولا جان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يعرف المجرمون بسيماهم فيؤخذوا من النواصي والأقدام فبأي آلاء جهنم التي يكذب بها المجرمون يطوفون بينها وبين حميم آن فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان ولمن خاف مقام ربه جنتان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان ذوتا عفنان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهما عينان تجريان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهما من كل فاكهة زوجان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان متكئين على فرش بطائنها من استبرق وجنى الجنتين دان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهن قاصرات الطرف لم يطمثهن إنس قبلهم ولا جان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان كأنهن الياقوت والمرجان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان هل جزاء الإحسان إلا الإحسان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان ومن دونهما جنتان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان مدهامتان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهما عينان نضاختان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهما فاكهة ونخل ورمان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهن خيرات حسان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان حور مقصورة في الخيام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان لم يطمثهن إنس قبلهم ولا جان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان متكئين على رفوف خضر وعبقري حسان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان تبارك اسم ربك ذي الجلال والإكرام.
Inshallah, we'll be reciting Surah number 70, Surah Al-Ma'arij from the Holy Quran. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سأل سائل بعذاب واقع للكافرين ليس له دافع من الله ذي المعارج تعرج الملائكة والروح إليه في يوم كان مقداره 50,000 سنة فاصبر صبرا جميلا إنهم يرونه بعيدا ونراه قريبا يوم تكون السماء كالمحر وتكون الجبال كالإحر ولا يسأل حميم حميما يبصرونهم يود المجرم لو يفتدي من عذاب يومئذ ببنيه وصاحبته وأخيه وفصيلته التي تؤويه ومن في الأرض جميعا ثم ينجيه كلا إنها لظى نزاعة للشوى تدعو من أدبر وتولى وجمع فأوعى إن الإنسان خلق هلوعا إذا مسه الشر جزوعا وإذا مسه الخير منوعا إلا المصلين الذين هم على صلاتهم دائمون والذين في أموالهم حق معلوم للسائل والمحروم والذين يصدقون بيوم الدين والذين هم من عذاب ربهم مشفقون إن عذاب ربهم غير مأمون والذين هم لفروجهم حافظون إلا على أزواجهم أو ما ملكت أيمانهم فإنهم غير ملومين فمن ابتغى وراء ذلك فأولئك هم العادون والذين هم لأماناتهم وعهدهم راعون والذين هم بشهاداتهم قائمون والذين هم على صلاتهم يحافظون أولئك في جنات مكرمون فما للذين كفروا قبلك مهطعين عن اليمين وعن الشمال عزين أيطمع كل امرئ منهم أن يدخل جنة نعيم كلا إنها لظى كلا إنا خلقناهم مما يعلمون فلا أقسم برب المشارق والمغارب إنا لقادرون على أن نبدل خيرا منهم وما نحن بمسبوقين فذرهم يخوضوا ويلعبوا حتى يلاقوا يومهم الذي يوعدون يوم يخرجون من الأجداث سراعا كأنهم إلى نصب يوفضون خاشعة أبصارهم ترهقهم ذلة ذلك اليوم الذي كانوا يوعدون. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إذا زلزلت الأرض زلزالها وأخرجت الأرض أثقالها وقال الإنسان ما لها يومئذ تحدث أخبارها بأن ربك أوحى لها يومئذ يصدر الناس أشتاتا ليروا أعمالهم فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يره صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وصلى اللهم بيننا وبينه وصلة تؤدي إلى مرافق سلفه. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرزك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله. السلام عليك يا خيرة الله وابن خيرته. السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين وابن سيد الوسيين. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتود. السلام عليك وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار. يا أبا عبد الله لقد عظمت الرزية وجلت وعظمت المصيبة مصيبتك بك علينا وعلى جميع أهل الإسلام وجلت وعظمت مصيبتك في السماوات على جميع أهل السماوات. ولعن الله أمة أسست صوت الظلم والجور عليكم أهل البيت. ولعن الله أمة دفعتكم عن مقامكم وأزالتكم عن مراتبكم التي رتبكم الله فيها. ولعن الله أمة قتلتكم. ولعن الله الممهدين لهم بالتمكين من قتالكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم ومن أشيائهم وأتباعهم وأوليائهم. يا أبا عبد الله إني سلم لمن ظلمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم لو يوم القيامة. ولعن الله آل زياد وآل مروان. ولعن الله بني أمية قاطبة. ولعن الله ابن مرجان. ولعن الله عمر بن سعد. ولعن الله شمرا. ولعن الله أمة أسرجت وعلجمت وتنقبت لقتالك كأبي أنت وأمي لقد عظم مصابي بك وأسأل الله الذي أكرم مقامك وأكرمني بك أن يرزقني طلب ثورك مع إمام منصور من أهل بيت محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم اجعلني عندك وجيها بالحسين عليه السلام في الدنيا والآخرة. يا أبا عبد الله إني أتقرب إلى الله وإلى رسوله وإلى أمير المؤمنين وإلى فاطمة وإلى الحسن وإليك بمباغضتك وبالبراءة ممن قاتلك ونسب لك الحرب وبالبراءة ممن أسس صوت الظلم والجور عليكم وابرأوا إلى الله وإلى رسوله ممن أسس أساس ذلك فبنى عليه بنيانا وجرى في ظلمه وجوره عليكم وعلى أشيائكم ورأيت إلى الله وإليكم منهم وأتقرب إلى الله ثم إليكم بمباولاتكم ومباولات وليكم وبالبراءة من أعدائكم والناصبين لكم الحال وبالبراءة من أشيائهم وأتباعهم. إني سلم لمن صالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم وولي لمن والوكم وعدو لمن عاداكم. فأسأل الله الذي أكرمني بمعرفتكم ومعرفة أوليائكم ورزقني البراءة من أعدائكم أن يجعلني معكم في الدنيا والآخرة وأن يثبتني عندكم قدم صدق في الدنيا والآخرة. وأسأله أن يبلغني المقام المحمود لكم عند الله وأن يرزقني طلب ثوري مع إمام هدى ظاهر ناطق بالحق منكم. وأسأل الله بحقكم وبالشأن الذي لكم عنده أن يعطيني بمصابيبكم أفضل ما يعطي مصابا بمصيبته مصيبة ما أعظمها وأعظم رزيتها في الإسلام وفي جميع السماوات والأرض. اللهم اجعلني في مقامي هذا ممن تناله منك صلوات ورحمة ومغفرة. اللهم اجعل محياي محيا محمد وآل محمد ومماتي ممات محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إن هذا يوم تبركت به بنو أمية وابن عقلك الأكبر اللعين ابن اللعين على لسانك ولسان نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله. في كل موطن وموقف وقف فيه نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم لعن أبا سفيان ومعاوية ويزيد بن معاوية عليهم منك اللعنة عبد العابدين. وهذا يوم فرحت به آل زياد وآل مروان بقتلهم الحسين صلوات الله عليه. اللهم فضائف عليهم اللعن منك والعذاب العليم. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك في هذا اليوم وفي موقفي هذا وأيام حياتي بالبراءة منهم واللعنة عليهم والمبالاة لنبيك وآل نبيك عليه وعليهم السلام. اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له ولا ذلك. اللهم لعن الإصابة التي جاحدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله. اللهم لعنهم جميعا. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار فلو جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. اللهم خص أنت أول ظالم باللعن مني وابدأ به أولا ثم لعن الثانية والثالثة والرابع. اللهم لعن يزيد خامسا ولعن عبيد الله بن زياد وابن مرجان وعمر بن سعد وشمرا وآل أبي سفيان وآل زياد وآل مرجان إلى يوم القيامة. سجدة. اللهم لك الحمد حمد الشاكرين لك على مصابح الحمد لله على عظيم رزيتي. اللهم ارزقني شفاعة الحسين يوم الورود وثبتني قدم صدق لك مع الحسين وأصحاب الحسين الذين بذلوا محجهم دون الحسين عليه السلام.
صلوات محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. کہتی تھی یہ ماں خون بھری میت سے لپٹ کر، کہتی تھی یہ ماں خون بھری میت سے لپٹ کر، ہائے ہائے علی اکبر، ہائے ہائے علی اکبر. کہتی تھی یہ ماں خون بھری میت سے لپٹ کر، ہائے ہائے علی اکبر، ہائے ہائے علی اکبر. ارمان تھا پہناؤں گی پوشاک شاہانی، افسوس کہ راس آئی نہ تجھ کو یہ جوانی. کیسا تھا مقدر، ہائے ہائے علی اکبر، ہائے ہائے علی اکبر. اتنا تو ذرا ٹھہرو تمہیں دولہا بنا لوں، بس ایک جھلک سہرے کی یہ صغرا کو دکھا لوں. بے چین تھی خواہر، ہائے ہائے علی اکبر، ہائے ہائے علی اکبر. ماں تیری جدائی میں بھلا کیسے جیے گی، مر جائے گی صغرا جو خبر تیری سنے گی، اب کیا کروں جی کر، ہائے ہائے علی اکبر، ہائے ہائے علی اکبر۔ پہلے تو ایک آواز پہ اٹھ جاتے تھے بیٹا، اب اتنی صداؤں پہ بھی پہلو نہیں بدلا، کیا ہو گیا دلبر، کیا ہو گیا دلبر، ہائے ہائے علی اکبر۔ تم ہجکیاں لے لے کے جو دم توڑ رہے تھے، موما سے ہمیشہ کے لیے موڑ رہے تھے، کیوں روٹھے ہو دلبر، کیوں روٹھے ہو دلبر، ہائے ہائے علی اکبر۔ کہتی تھی یہ ماں خون بھری میت سے لپٹ کر، کہتی تھی یہ ماں خون بھری میت سے لپٹ کر، ہائے ہائے علی اکبر، ہائے ہائے علی اکبر۔ صلوات بر محمد وعلی آلہ۔
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Again, I welcome you to the seventh night of our Muharram Majlis program. Inshallah, it's great to see some new faces as well. And for the benefit for those of those that haven't been here for the past few nights, I just have a few quick announcements regarding just like procedures. When you leave tonight, inshallah, please can you just ensure you leave in a quiet manner. Avoid gathering in groups outside. Just because it's a residential area and as people talk, it gets loud, and we don't want our neighbours to be disturbed. Again, when you're coming into the Husainiya and when you're going out by car, please be reminded that it's a 20-mile-an-hour zone. The parking stewards have noticed some people going above that, and again, it's a residential area, narrow roads, and it can be a bit dangerous. So please can you just try to keep within that speed limit. Third, if you're not a kitchen volunteer, please can you stay out of the kitchen unless you've been explicitly told to come and help. If you've got small children during the majlis, please can you just ensure they're by your side so they're not disturbing others, and everyone can concentrate, inshallah. If they need to go to the toilet, for example, accompany them and so forth. And I think that's about it. So please can we welcome the Sheikh, the minbar with the loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Let me start with a quick note. I noticed, and you probably noticed, that in the past couple of nights maybe my talks were a bit too long and I crossed the time limit. I want to mention that this was the exception, inshallah, it's not the norm. So inshallah, I will not take too long of your time. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ومولاي يا رسول الله صلى الله عليك وعلى آلك المظلومين صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ومولاي وابن مولاي يا أبا عبد الله الحسين غريب يا مظلوم كربلاء ومسلوب العمامة والرداء يا ليتنا كنا معكم سيدي فنفوز فوزا عظيما السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى رحمة الله وبركاته أما بعد يقول الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا ضربتم في سبيل الله فتبينوا ولا تقولوا لمن ألقى إليكم السلام لست مؤمنا صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات. Quran chapter 4 verse 94. O believers, when you struggle in the cause of God, be sure who you fight, and do not say to those who offer you peace, you are no believer. Inshallah, tonight we're going to discuss how should we interact with non-religious Muslims. What are our responsibilities towards them, and obviously according to the teachings of Islam. So the outline, inshallah, for this talk is going to be as follows. So first, who are the non-religious? What do we mean by non-religious people? Then, what are the two extremes of attitudes that we might demonstrate towards non-religious people? Obviously, I'm assuming that religious people are those who claim that they want to adhere to everything that they know about to be part of faith or part of religion, whether practices to be done or things to avoid. When you are committing yourself completely to that system, then you're a religious person. What are attitudes that we might demonstrate towards non-religious people? How does the Quran and the Sunnah tell us to treat these people? And in the end, some recommendations to highlight what is our responsibility towards someone who is non-religious. And obviously, when I say someone who is not religious, these might be our friends, our close friends, these might be our family members, these might be our parents, our children, my sister, my brother in the family, my uncle, my nephew, my niece, or someone from the community. Obviously, my brothers and sisters, in our lives, we meet so many people. We interact with so many people. Yes, from different ways of thinking, different backgrounds. But generally, we all like to be around those people who are like us. Yes? If you're religious, you like to mix with people who are religious. You like to mix with people and interact with them, and you like to allow to your social circle the people who agree with you on your thoughts, who agree with you, who share with you certain beliefs, maybe certain experiences, who understand you and whom you understand. This is generally how we feel socially. Yes? So, when I say now, okay, we are people who are religious, and I understand and appreciate that actually amongst us might be people who are not necessarily fully religious. When I say we have a religious community, meaning, as I said in the beginning, a community that actually affiliates itself with the commandments of God fully and avoids anything that God prohibited also fully, or at least try, or at least attempt. So generally, when we say non-religious people, they could be categorized in two types. One is the group of people who are, as I would call the abandoners. Meaning what? Meaning these people, for example, who might be born in a Muslim community, Muslim family, but actually they don't adhere to any of the practices of the Muslims. They don't adhere to it. They don't, for example, perform what God has commanded. They don't refer to the Quran and the narrations of the Prophet or the Ahlul Bayt or so. That's not in their lifestyle. Their lifestyle is completely different. It has nothing Islamic whatsoever. But by their identity, they were born into a Muslim community. Yes? So these people don't feel that Islam, or they don't have actually Islam or anything Islamic in their lifestyle. Obviously, there might be reasons. One reason could be out of ignorance. Out of ignorance. Someone was born into a family or in a place or in a community where they haven't heard about these practices. They haven't heard about, for example, the Quran. They haven't heard about these principles and values. Yes? They grew up in an environment that these things were not discussed. And actually, maybe some of you might remember, I hear this from some elders in Lebanon, my father's generation maybe. They would say, look, before the revolution in Iran, before the Islamic revolution led by Imam Khomeini, may Allah bless him, before that, our understanding of religion was just that, there's God, there's Prophet Muhammad, and there's Imam Ali. Hassan and Hussein maybe. But after that, who are the Imams after Imam al-Hussein? It's not really spoken about. It wasn't really popular. Shia community, Muslim communities, yes? So there wasn't this kind of revival of this kind of awakening regarding Islamic knowledge. It took place, it happened after some time. So you might have communities like this. They haven't really heard much about Islam and the principles. And therefore, they are not committed, not religious necessarily. Other people might be what? No, they know. They know that there is a message of Islam. They know that it's a righteous message. They know that, there's a recommendations from the Prophet. There are commands from God. There are prohibitions from God. There's the Quran. There's the Hadith. There's the Ahlul Bayt and so on. But no, they insist. They just don't want anything to do with Islam. Okay? So this is another type of, or another reason that someone might not be religious. Might not be religious altogether. Abandoner. So abandoning the religion altogether. Some people might be excused. Some people might not be. But there's other type or other category of people who might be partially committed. They're not 100% committed, like many of you here. They're partially committed. Maybe they pick and choose some practices from the faith. Yes? Maybe, for example, this is something, let me mention some examples, okay? You observe in the West, when you move from one generation to another, you see, for example, you might have a father or a mother who are very devout, who make sure that they pray on time, who don't just do the wajib, the obligations, but actually do the mustahab. They make sure they pray extra, they make sure that they recite du'as and so on. But then you see the next generation, maybe there appears to be some dilution. As in, for example, the mother would be observing hijab really, really accurately as per the rulings that we have. But you see, for example, the daughter might be tending to actually be relaxed, more relaxed, maybe because there's the influence of some fashion. Yes? So you might see this kind of dilution of commitment to faith. This is one thing that you might observe in generations. And we need to be careful as well, so that our faith does not get diluted through our generations. So you might see, for example, some ladies, young ladies, might be, let's say, observing hijab, but partially. Maybe the young lady, for example, she shows her wrists or she shows her neck. But actually, if you see her practices, she prays salat on time. She never misses salat. Right? So there is kind of commitment to the commandments of God, commitment to religion or faith, but partially. You might have, for example, some people who might be participating in some impermissible gatherings. Let's say they gamble. Let's say they go to places that are impermissible, that are haram. But in the month of Ramadan, for example, they make sure they stop it. They don't do it. Some people might have some friends that are corrupt, that are not on the right path. Maybe they take them somewhere that is not permissible, but in Ashura or in Muharram, they make sure they don't. And they make sure they pray. Some people don't pray outside Ramadan. But in the month of Ramadan, they make sure they pray. Yes? Some people in the month of Ramadan, maybe they don't pray, but they just fast. Yes? So there is kind of, they stick to some practices and not the other. So these are some examples. Some people, for example, they might go to Hajj or Umrah often, or Ziyarah often. But in the way they do business, you would see that they engage in so many, for example, ambiguous transactions. Maybe riba, maybe including some usury. Yes? If you ask that person, he would say, look, what is for Caesar is for Caesar. What's for God is for God. Yes? So everything has its part, it's business is business, God is God. Of course, many people might be having this kind of attitude towards faith or religion for many reasons. For many reasons. It could be that there are gaps. It could be that there are weaknesses. Some people are weak. They haven't disciplined themselves in a certain way that they're able to resist some temptations of money, for example. Okay? There is a certain level of weakness. Some people are ignorant. Some people don't know, simply. So this is an introduction I thought to mention. So that when I say, for example, people who are non-religious, I mean these people who maybe are not observing everything in the faith, but they are still observing something. What is our responsibility towards them? Do we have a responsibility towards them? How should we treat them? How should we meet them? How should we greet them? How should we treat them? How should we interact with them? So let me first mention some people or some communities might choose to go into two extremes, or either of two extremes. One extreme is that, look, we come to these people and we tell them, look, you can't be 50-50. You can't be 50-50 about faith. You can't pick and choose. You either go full on, you either go, with the full package, or just leave the faith. There's no, 1/3, 2/3. No. It has to be perfect. Perfectionism, basically. So for example, we come to that young lady who's observing a certain level of hijab, maybe not to the details, maybe showing, for example, parts of her body, and we tell her, what hijab is this? God is not accepting from you this hijab. You might as well just remove it altogether. That's not hijab. Perfectionism, okay? Or someone, for example, who might tell him, well, what is this salat you're praying? You pray one day and you stop another day. You might as well just stop praying altogether. God is not accepting from you. No 50-50, huh? To this kind of attitude or to this kind of position. And in fact, the way these people are behaving if you judge them in that way, you're forgetting everything positive. You're just focusing on the negative. You forget what God Himself said in Quran chapter 3 verse 195, where He would say, فَاسْتَجَابَ لَهُمْ رَبُّهُمْ أَنِّي لَا أُضِيعُ عَمَلَ عَامِلٍ مِّنكُم مِّن ذَكَرٍ أَوْ أُنثَى. So their Lord responded to them, I will never deny any of you, male or female, the reward of your deeds. Remember, فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ. Allah says in the Quran, whoever does atoms weight good, he will see it. So who are you to say, no, God will not accept from you. Remove your hijab altogether. Stop praying altogether. Stop fasting. Why are you fasting? Why are you going to Hajj or Umrah? You're cheating in your transactions in business. So you shouldn't go to Hajj or Umrah altogether. You're wasting your time. Yeah? That's one attitude. Now, there's another extreme. Which is what? Sometimes the person who is sinning, the person who is not obeying God, might be very close to me, might be my best friend, might be my daughter, might be my son, my father, and then I feel that I have to justify. Then I feel I have to justify that disobedience of God, that sin. Yes, my sister, because I love her so much, yes. For example, she's not observing hijab. And I think, then I say, or for example, she took off her hijab. Then I start justifying. Yes, because there was these pressures. Yes, because, says who that hijab is wajib and so on. Yes, you start justifying. That's a dangerous extreme. Do you know what? This is dangerous. Because it normalizes the sin. It makes it normal, acceptable. Yes? For example, let's say my son. He is, wal'iyadu billah, God forbid, for example, he's taking or using some prohibited drugs. Yes? Well, yes, because he's going through so many difficulties. I'm sure God will understand, right? Sometimes we do these justifications, but actually we're normalizing the sin. Brothers, sisters, it is far better. Look, we all maybe have done mistakes in our lives, right? Maybe many of us also will still make mistakes. We might disobey God. God forbid, inshallah, we shouldn't. Yes? But if it happened and you disobeyed God, it is far better that you stand before God and say, oh God, that was wrong, that was a sin. Help me stop it. Rather than justifying it and say, no, that's not a sin, come on. It's far better. Otherwise, you're creating a God out of your own self. You're making your own self a pharaoh. You're creating your own rules. You're standing before God. You're telling God, you say, but I say. Don't be in that position ever in your life. It is far better that when you sin, if you sin, God forbid, if you sin, if you disobey God, regardless how small it is or big it is far better to acknowledge and admit that it is wrong than to say, no, it is right, and you justify it. A narration attributed to the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That he said, لا تنظروا إلى صغر الذنب. If you sin, don't look at how small that sin is. It might be a small thing that you think is small. Yes? But look at whom you're disobeying. Whom you're disobeying. If I know that I'm taking a penny from your pocket, it's a small sin. I haven't asked you for that permission, and I know you won't be affected. I took it without your permission. I stole it. It's stealing. Yes, it's stealing. But you might think it's small. It's 1 penny. I'm sure he will understand that person. But God told you never do that. So it's not that the sin is small, I'm not affecting that person. It's the fact that you're actually standing face to face, wal'iyadu billah, with the Lord of the existence, with Rabbul Alameen. He's saying don't, you say no, it's fine, I can do it. Yeah, don't be in that position. Rasulullah is saying, don't belittle any sin, any disobedience of God. Because no matter how little it is massive and great, because you're disobeying the great. So is there any way between these two extremes? Yes? So one extreme is to say, look, you have sinned so much, you're outside the mercy of God. It's useless. It's in vain what you do. The other extreme is what? No, it's fine. It's okay. The sin is fine. The disobedience is okay. God will understand. Yes? So these are two wrong extremes. What is the position in between? So let me go to some reports from the Quran and the narrations of Ahlul Bayt alayhum salam. In the Quran, there is a verse that was revealed in a certain circumstance. You know, in the early days of Islam, there were situations, obviously there were war and battles between the believers and those who are fighting them, the followers of the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and those who are fighting them. Sometimes it happens that a person from the enemy fighting the Muslim, yes, so a Muslim is following, let's say, someone to kill him or to attack him, and that enemy would recite the Shahada, would say, I bear witness that there is no God but God and that Muhammad is his messenger, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. The Muslim, sometimes they would not accept. They would say, no, you're still a hypocrite. You don't mean it. And he would continue fighting him. Or sometimes he would kill him. A verse was revealed from the Quran. That was the verse that I recited initially. Quran chapter 4, verse 94. O believers, when you struggle in the cause of God, be sure of who you fight, And do not say to those who offer you peace, you are no believer. Do not say that. How can you know what is in the heart of that person? How can you know? How can you be sure that this person did not, for example, embrace the message wholeheartedly? So the Quran is telling us, look, act by what you see. By what you see. Apparently this person recited the Shahada, treat them as Muslim. And in fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows, God knows that some people who would join Islam, they wouldn't join the faith or embrace the faith wholeheartedly, and their heart would be cured and pure at the same moment or in one go. Allah knows. Yet He said, when one says Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, that is it. This person's rights are preserved. This person is a brother of yours. In fact, this was a strategy of Islam. It was a strategy. Acknowledging that, look, sometimes if you want to take someone from shirk, from disbelief, from this belief of polytheism, it doesn't happen all at once. First, bring that person, after you bring him and secure him or her into a certain environment that is pure, then at least you have isolated them first from the cause of that illness. That's what happens when you want to cure someone from some illness, isn't it? Yes, you isolate them from the cause and you take them to a rehabilitation. This is how rehabilitation works. Yes? That's the idea behind rehabilitation. So, make sure that you don't cut the bridges between people and God. It's not your choice. It's not your judgment to say that this person, for example, that is it. There's no way that they can be accepted by God. No. Allah is saying, no, that's not your judgment to make. So, that's how Islam deals with it. So, Islam knows that if someone says the Shahada, sometimes in the heart, it's not like there's no complete faith. There might be shirk. Someone might be a munafiq. We all know what happened on the day of Mecca, of Fath Mecca. Some people said, I believe in you, O Muhammad. But they probably never actually believed. And it was very hard for them to believe. And Islam acknowledged it. And they were treated as Muslims. Muslim, that is it. So that's one story. That's one story. It tells us never to destroy these bridges between people and God. Keep that thread of connection, no matter how small and light it is. Keep it for people. In a narration attributed to our sixth Imam, Al-Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salam, someone was at the presence of the Imam, and it seems that there were some people who were mentioned in that presence. So that companion said to Imam As-Sadiq, he said, but oh Imam, you know these people who were mentioned, yeah? We dissociate from them. We disconnect from them. They don't believe what we believe. They don't say what we say. So they are outside our circles. And that person assumed that, he's righteous and the Imam endorses him. The Imam asked him, he said, يَتَوَلَّوْنَ وَلَا يَقُولُونَ مَا تَقُولُونَ تَبْرَؤُونَ مِنْهُمْ. So these people, the Imam answered, so those people you're talking about, they follow us, they love us, but they don't believe what you believe. They don't have the exact same thoughts that you have. They don't have the level of knowledge and iman maybe that you have. And you dissociate yourselves from them? The man said, yes. Do you know what the Imam replied? He said, but look, we have what you don't have. Did you see us dissociating ourselves from you? We have the knowledge that you don't have. The successors, remember the 12 successors we talked about. They have the knowledge of Rasulullah. We have the knowledge that you don't have. We have the capacity that you don't have. We have the spiritual levels that you don't have. Does it befit? Is it befitting then that we say we have nothing to do with you? Is that how it is? Imam continued and he said about God even, he said, وَهُوَ ذَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ مَا لَيْسَ عِنْدَنَا أَفَتَرَاهُ طَرَحَنَا. God has what we don't have. Did you see God forsaking us? What is this logic? That if someone does not believe what you believe, if someone does not have the level of faith that you have, If someone is not able to reach your level maybe of intellectuality, what is that logic that you say, I dissociate from them, I disconnect from them, they're not allowed in our social circles? What logic is this? If you apply that logic, it means that then the Ahlul Bayt have the right to say, we don't know you, we have nothing to do with you. Allah then has the right to tell us, I have nothing to do with you, go away. When we see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the gates of mercy that He keeps open for people. That's the answer from Al-Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salam. And Imam continues, because that person asks, he said, okay Imam, what should we do then? Imam says, فَتَوَلَّوْهُمْ وَلَا تَبْرَأُوا مِنْهُمْ. Connect with them and do not forsake them, do not disconnect from them, do not exclude them. Connect with them, keep the connection. They might be sinners. They might be people who don't have your level of faith, your level of knowledge. Doesn't mean you leave them. Doesn't mean you disconnect from them. You close the doors of hope for them. فَتَوَلَّوْهُمْ وَلَا تَبْرَأُوا مِنْهُمْ. Imam explains, he says, because إِنَّ مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ مَنْ لَهُ سَهْمٌ. Some of the Muslims have one share of faith. Others have 2 shares of faith. Others have 3 shares of faith. Others have 4, 5, 6, 7 shares of faith. Imam continues saying, فَلَيْسَ يَنْبَغِي أَن يَحْمِلَ صَاحِبُ السَّهْمِ or أَن يُحْمَلَ صَاحِبُ السَّهْمِ عَلَى مَا عَلَيْهِ صَاحِبُ السَّهْمَيْنِ. The one who has 1 share of faith, that's her capacity. You should not expect from her what you expect from the person who has 2 shares of faith. You cannot expect from someone who is able to recite Quran 1 juz every day. You cannot expect from him, for example, to recite 10 juz every day because you are able to recite 10 parts every day. People have different capacities. Imam is saying clearly, Iman or faith, the level of religiosity, the level of spirituality, the level of intellectuality, the level of knowledge. People are different. People have different levels, different potentials. Don't expect the same potential from everyone. Don't judge the fish by its ability to climb a wall. People have different potentials. Imam is saying, you should make sure you understand the capacity of each person. And so, those people whom you're talking about, whom you're saying that they don't agree with what you believe, they don't believe what you believe, think of them as at least they have a smaller share of faith. Although that's also a matter of discussion. Who says that they have the smaller share of faith and not you? But assuming, at least consider that they were not blessed with what God has blessed you. So have mercy on them. You've probably heard of that story of the new convert. One of our Imams, he mentions that story. That there was once a Muslim worshipper, a pious worshipper. He converted someone to the faith, to Islam. That pious worshipper explained to the new convert that this is our faith. We have salat every day. We pray 5 times, for example. We have these acts of worship and so on. And he explained things. So, that night that this person converted, the pious worshipper knocked on his door. He said, you know, it's night. It's mustahab. It's recommended to pray to God. Spend the night in worship. So let's go to the mosque. And this new convert was excited. Let's go. MashaAllah, it's very nice. So they went and spent the night in worship. When the man was about to leave, this new convert, the pious worshipper said, well, wait, you know, Fajr time, the morning prayer is in a bit, so you might as well just stay and join the prayers and then, you know. So they stayed. Done Fajr. Well, you know, it's recommended, he told him, it's recommended that you spend the time while, you know, before the sun rises to actually also read Quran, worship and recite du'as and so on. Okay, they stayed. After some time, about to leave, that worshipper would tell him, no, look, Dhuhr time is soon. You can stay, it's just a few hours. Stay, we'll pray Dhuhr. And then, you know, we can go home. They prayed Dhuhr. The convert was about to leave. The pious worshipper told him, well, look, an hour, Asr time is here, so just stay for some time. It's really good, mashallah. It's very, very nice, good act, you know, to get closer to God. That man stayed. The same thing, you know, the half of the day went already and Maghrib time is soon, so stay. And he stayed for Maghrib. Well, you know, 1 hour for Isha, you might as well just pray Isha. And that poor convert, he had to stay the whole day. And then he went home. And the next night, the pious worshipper knocked on his door again. What's the matter? Come on, we have to go and worship God again. That new convert said to this person, look, my brother, this religion of yours, it seems it needs someone who has no work. I have work, I have family, I have commitments. So please, I'm happy now. I don't want this religion of yours. The Imam describes this person as what? He brought him to something and he took him out of it in the same day, in one day. In one day. He converted a person and he made them to convert back. Why? Because he expected from him what he thought is the norm. What he thought, and he thought that, if someone converts, they have to hit level 10 of 10. Immediately the same day. That's not how faith develops. That's not how people journey towards God. That's not how people journey towards God. It's a gradual ascension. It's a gradual development. So that person missed it altogether and he messed up. He messed up. He messed up the process. Another narration from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, also he explains this. He explains this to a companion of his by the name of Abdul Aziz. He says, "O Abdul Aziz, know that Iman, faith, is 10 levels like a ladder. Iman and faith, your ascension to God, your proximity to God, your religiosity." We're talking today about how we treat non-religious people, yeah? Your religiosity is 10 levels. Your faith is 10 levels that you ascend a level by level, as the Imam is saying. Imam continues. Faith is 10 levels like a ladder, ascended level by level. Whosoever is at the second level shall not say to the person at the first level that you have no grounds whatsoever, that you're wrong, that you're worthless, that you're weak, that what you're doing is in vain, that all you know is nonsense. Imam continues. And let the person of the third level never say to the person at the second level, you stand on nothing whatsoever. And so on. Imam continues until he reaches the 10th level. Because this logic, what does it mean? The Imam says it. So do not disqualify the one beneath you, lest you'd be disqualified by the one above you. That's the rule. Golden rule. If you accept that you disqualify the one who is not less knowledgeable than you, less spiritual than you, less religious than you, you think you're better than them, you disqualify them, you think they're not in the faith, you think they're outside the mercy of God, then don't be surprised if someone above you treats you in the same way. And we all are on our levels on this ladder towards God. So who are we to say, this person, God has nothing to do with him or her? So Imam Salamullahi alayhi is making that very clear. Look, another thing, the Imam adds it, and I think this is really important. This is really, 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 really important. He says, and do not burden them with things that they cannot tolerate, lest you break them. Remember when I said people have different potentials? People have different capacities. People have different levels of energy. Don't overburden them with things that they can't tolerate. Remember that convert? How that person broke him essentially. Sometimes we might load people with things or beliefs or practices and we expect from them, look, if you don't believe in this, you're not a Shia. If you don't believe in this, you're not a Muslim. Says who? Says who? Look, if you don't do this, for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will punish you forever and there's no way out. There's no way back. Sometimes with things that we do, we break people. We take them away from God. We even take them outside the faith forever. They might not join back. Why? Because words that you've said, things that you've done, because you thought that they had nothing whatsoever to save them before God. That their work is worthless. That there's nothing worthy about them to make them saved in the eyes of God. Do you know what the Imam says in the end? He says, فَإِنَّ مَنْ كَسَرَ مُؤْمِنًا فَعَلَيْهِ جَبْرُهُ. Whoever breaks a believer shall heal them. If you break a believer, you should heal her, heal him. If you say things that make them feel that they're far away from God and they feel so it doesn't make sense that I'm religious at all, let me leave the faith, It's your responsibility, fix it. Fix it. In that narration, Imam Salamullahi alayhi, or actually another narration, where he would say, in this narration, he would say, if you see someone beneath you, irfa'hu ilayka birifq, bring him towards you gently. Bring her towards you gently. If someone is less religious than you, if someone is less knowledgeable than you, bring them towards you gently. Don't break them. That's what the Imam says, don't break them. Don't overload people beyond their capacity. Understand people's capacities. Okay? It's a very, very important point, my brothers and sisters. The last point I'll mention in this section is what Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, our fifth Imam, he would say about the mercy of God. Someone would ask Al-Imam al-Baqir about, what is the deen that no one would leave? What is the most basic beliefs that everyone would be safe with in that sense? So the Imam answers, he says, look, ad-deenu wasi'. The mercy of God is very vast. The mercy of God is very vast. But the Khawarij, they made it really tight. The Khawarij, those who revolted against Imam Amirul Mu'mineen Ali bin Abi Talib alayhi salam, they actually claimed that, if someone is a sinner, therefore he's a fasiq. If you sin, if you disobey God, you're fasiq. You are corrupt. Fasiq is a big word. Yes? They made it really, really, really tough. They made the mercy of God applying only to small circles. They restricted the mercy of God so much. In that narration, Imam says, he talks about someone, he says to that person, to explain to him the mercy of God. He says, look, do you know Ayman? Ayman seems to have been probably a lady, an elder lady, maybe who was not very knowledgeable enough to know the things that these companions knew of knowledge. He said, do you know Ayman? That person said, yes. Imam al-Baqir said, I bear witness that she is from the Ahlul Jannah, from the people of paradise, and she doesn't believe what you believe. You believe in us Ahlul Bayt, you believe that you follow us, you believe that we are worthy of being followed and obeyed, you dissociate yourselves from our enemy and so on. He says, Ayman doesn't believe what you believe. She's in the Ahlul Jannah. She's from the people of paradise. I bear witness. That's the mercy of God. Istawsi'u rahmat Allah. So, this takes me to the recommendations. So I'll mention, inshallah, 4 recommendations before I finish. On how should we deal with people who are not religious, and I mentioned in the beginning. How should we come across to them? The first thing is something that I mentioned. Understand that religiosity happens gradually. Understand that guidance towards God happens gradually. It is not an instant process. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even in the Quran, when Allah revealed the prohibition of khamr, of wine, right? In the Quran, there's a few verses, probably 4 verses that talk about wine. One seems to be more lenient than another. And then gradually, khamr started to be, or the phrase prohibiting khamr began to be very explicit. In the beginning, a verse was revealed, for example, O you who believe, don't approach prayers until you know what you're saying. So if you're drunk, don't come to prayers when you're drunk. It's not saying, outright, don't drink, it's haram. It understood that this was something, it was a practice that probably was in the community, it needs to happen gradually. Then there are other verses that say, for example, if they ask you about the wine, remember or mention or say that they have benefits and harms, but the harms are greater than the benefits. So introducing a bit by bit. Yes, gradually. In the end, there's a verse that was revealed that it is rijsum min amal ash-shaytan fajtanibuh. Avoid it altogether. It is of the acts of Satan. Avoid it. Not just don't be near to it. Avoid it. Okay? Even these kind of practices, they came gradually. So the same thing with getting closer to God, with understanding or appreciating or offering your servitude to God, or getting closer to God, or becoming more religious, having greater faith and stronger faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that happens gradually as well. That's something you need to understand. Because if you don't, then you will misjudge people. Then you will mistreat people. Then you will have expectations from others that are not factual. They are not realistic. So that's number one. Number two, which I mentioned also yesterday, never exclude people from the mercy of God. Never excommunicate people from the mercy of God. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in a verse of the Quran, chapter 11, verse 114, وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ طَرَفَيِ اللَّيْلِ طَرَفَيِ النَّهَارِ وَزُلْفًا مِنَ اللَّيْلِ إِنَّ الْحَسَنَاتِ يُذْهِبْنَ السَّيِّئَاتِ. Allah says in that chapter, establish prayer at both ends of the day and in the early part of the night. Surely good deeds wipe out evil deeds. Good deeds wipe out, erase, delete evil deeds. Some mufassirun say that good deeds is salat. By evidence of the context here, Allah is saying, establish salat at these times. Good deeds erase the evil deeds. Some mufassirun suggest it is actually the good deeds here are salat. We pray how many times per day? 5 times per day. 5 times per day. So these are the good deeds that we do. What are the evil deeds? The sins that we make in between each salat. Between each salat, we might make sins, we might disobey God. Yes, we might listen to something prohibited, we might look at something that God said never look at, we might, for example, maybe say a lie, we might do so many things that are disobeying God. So what is the verse saying here? You know the evil deeds that you're doing in between salat times? When you go to salat, salat erases that sin. Salat washes your heart, washes you, purifies you, cleanses you. It gives you hope. Brothers and sisters, if I may recommend something. When your children, mothers and fathers, when your children disobey you, when your children commit or make a mistake, maybe they raise their voices above yours, maybe they disrespect you in a certain way, maybe they disobey you, maybe they commit a certain sin or a mistake. When they go and do salat and offer salat and pray to God, when you know that they offered salat and prayed to God, tell them that you forgive them. My child, my daughter, my son, yes, he disrespected me, for example, an hour ago. I call him, my son, come here. Yes. Did you pray salat? Did you pray to God? Yes. Give me a hug. I'm happy with you. Allah forgave you, I forgive you. Be on the side of God, brothers and sisters. When Allah forgives, you forgive. Teach people, teach your children that meeting with God is an opportunity for redemption, is an opportunity for starting a new page. That's how they learn. That's how you connect them with salat. So, when one sins and comes to pray, speaks to God, comes before God, that's the sins, their sins go. Their sins go away. Al-hasanat yudhibna sayyi'at. The good deeds wipe out the evil deeds. And this is actually what shaitan tries to do. Look, the whole interest of shaitan and the devil is that he may increase our evil deeds and decrease our good deeds. Yes? But if salat is an opportunity for us to erase whatever we've accumulated in a very short time, that's a hard job for Iblis. He will have to start again after every salat. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Shaitan, the devil, would work on us, tempting us so much to accumulate sins. And then in a few hours later, I'll pray before God and then I'll start afresh. And then shaitan has to restart again. That's a lot of effort, yeah? That's why maybe it's easier for shaitan to tempt us to delay salat. Skip salat. Skip salat. Then the sins accumulate and accumulate and accumulate and they take us away from God. And then we don't have our evil deeds being erased. Yes? That's one of the reasons that we connect with God every day with salat. And sometimes what we actually be doing, remember the examples I mentioned in the beginning. Yes? You brother, what are you doing? You drink the prohibited. You drink alcohol outside the month of Ramadan. And now in the month of Ramadan, you want to pray. Don't pray altogether. It's not accepted. Do you know what you're doing here? You're helping shaitan. You put yourself as a soldier for shaitan when you say that. When you say to that young lady who's trying to observe hijab and wear modestly, but her wrists are showing, when you tell her, what is this hijab you're wearing? Go take it off. You're helping shaitan. You registered, you signed up to his army. That's what you're doing. Remember that. Number 3. when people do goodness, and that's what I mentioned, sometimes we focus on the negatives, we forget the positives. Yes? That lady who's showing her wrists or her neck, for example, did you not notice that she's trying to observe hijab? Did you not notice that she's trying to be modest? Why do you not focus on that? Did you not notice or did you not remember how difficult it is actually to observe hijab in these countries? I'm not saying to justify that someone does not observe to the details of the rulings, right? We should. But at least acknowledge that someone is making the effort. That person who's performing salat, that person who's not doing salat every day, maybe they're skipping dhuhr every day, every other day, maybe they skip subh, okay, and they don't do qada, for example. Why are you seeing that they are skipping salat and you're not seeing that they're actually trying again? Why do you not see that they're trying again the next day? Why do you not encourage that? Instead of shooting people down in that way, actually say, MashaAllah, bless you. But look, it would help you more if you try not to skip. Someone doesn't focus on salat. Someone when he performs or she performs salat, you know that they're not thinking of salat. Okay, they're somewhere else. Okay, they opened the business and closed the business and they have wandered around the whole earth. Yes, every single country between Allahu Akbar and between Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. They went everywhere. Okay. Bless you. Good. Inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts this from you, absolves you from the need to repeat it. So fiqhi wise, it's accepted. Spiritually wise, you can work on it more. Think about what you're saying. Think about when you say, Iyyaka na'bud wa iyyaka nasta'een. Maybe you can recommend to your brother and sister. When you say to God, only you do I worship and only you do I seek help from. Think about it and be honest when you say it. And actually worship only God. Try to suggest people some things. Do you know, in the world of development, something that is called SWOT analysis. Has anyone heard of SWOT analysis? SWOT. S-W-O-T. When you want to develop someone, if you yourself want to develop, there are 4 things that you need to identify. S, your strengths. What strengths do you have to cultivate them, to make you progressing, to make you successful? Identify those. Yes? Strengths. W, weaknesses. What weaknesses do you have? So that you identify these gaps and you fill them and you don't let them put you down or take you back. Okay? You apply these into all these suggestions of religiosity, let's say. That person has a strength of what? They are, for example, very smart intellectually. That's a strength. Okay, go cultivate it. Go learn. Understand these proofs about proving God. Yes? MashaAllah, you're able to understand things. Go. That's identifying the strength and finding a way to actually cultivate it. Strengths, weaknesses. What else? Opportunities. Opportunities. Identify what opportunities that there are where you're able to cultivate your strengths or fill the gaps, minimize your weaknesses. And T, threats. Threats. Identify these things. Apply that. You can apply that in that realm of development. So encourage goodness. Encourage people to do good. Appreciate when they do good. Your children, when they do good, even if it's partial, encourage it, appreciate it, reward it. Yes? And do that with everyone who's religious around us. We need to start looking at the full half of the cup. Look at the full half and understand there will come a day, inshallah, that person will improve and develop. The 4th recommendation and the 5th is, with all this, it doesn't mean that you justify. You need to be clear about what is right and what is wrong. What is wrong is wrong. I love my sister, I love my daughter, I love my sister in the community, yes, but I find it an obligation for me to say that, look, this hijab maybe that is showing, for example, your body, that's not hijab according to Islam and according to what we learned from the Prophet and the Messenger and the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. That's not offensive. That shouldn't be looked at as offensive, that we should be shy of saying, obviously in the right way and by the right people. Okay? So you shouldn't start confusing things and saying, well, this is wrong, but it's okay, allow it. No. Keep it clear. Keep it clear. But keep the love, keep the respect. Remember God's mercy. Remember God's mercy. And inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would take the hand of each one of us. We probably have heard many stories actually from people who they were half religious maybe when they were young. They were doing salat, but maybe they were, listening to haram stuff. Maybe they were, for example, going to haram places at some period in their lives. May Allah protect us all from this. But with some people it happened. Okay? Subhanallah. That salat that they used to pray when they were young, and they probably kept, even though they don't focus on it, even though they pray it may be late, even though they don't wake up on salat subh, but every day they do qada, yeah? One day, maybe they were 30, 40, one day that would be the thread, that would be the bridge, no matter how frail it is, that would be the bridge that would bring these people back to God. Never underestimate these bridges. Never underestimate little goodness that people try to stick to connect to God. Never underestimate how people feel about Ashura, the first 10 days, how they connect to God through Hussein. Never underestimate that. A person might be doing so much sins before Ashura. In the period of Ashura, they become respectful of God, respectful of Hussein alayhi salam, respectful of the message of Rasulullah, respectful of Rasulullah. Appreciate that. That will bear fruit someday, inshallah. May Allah bless you, inshallah. Let's move with our hearts to Karbala, remembering Ali Akbar. Al-Akbar, he was one of those people who understood what it means to be right. As they arrived to Karbala, it is narrated that Imam al-Hussein would tell Ali Akbar, he would say, look, I see that this is going to be the place where we leave this world. This is going to be it. Akbar would say, but Father, awalasna ala al-haq. Oh Father, are we not righteous? Imam says yes. Akbar would say, then why should we care? Whether we meet death or death comes to us. Whether we go to death or death comes to us. It is narrated that on the day of Ashura, after all the companions attained their faith of martyrdom, the 25-year-old Akbar, Ali Akbar, he saw his father alone. He approached him and he asked him for permission to leave towards the battlefield. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam didn't even have the heart to give him the permission explicitly. Instead, the reports and the narrations say that the Imam alayhi salam arkha aynayhi bid-dumu', that tears began rolling on Hussein's cheeks. And the Imam raised his hands towards the heaven and prayed, and he said, Allahumma ashhad ala ha'ula'i al-qawm. That was the way of Hussein saying yes to his son. Allahumma ashhad ala ha'ula'i al-qawm faqad baraza ilayhim ghulam ashbahu an-nasi khalqan wa khuluqan bi rasulillah. Oh Allah, you bear witness that a man who resembles the Holy Prophet the most in looks, in conduct, in speech is going now to fight these people. وَكُنَّا إِذَا اشْتَقْنَا إِلَىٰ نَبِيِّكَ نَظَرْنَا إِلَىٰ هَذَا الْغُلَامِ. And oh God, when we would miss your Prophet, we would look at this young man's face. Now he's off to fight these people. This was Imam al-Hussein's way of saying to his beloved Ali, you have my permission to go. But before he goes, it is said that Ali Akbar goes to bid his aunt Zainab and mother Layla farewell. Ali Akbar goes, he takes a while and he doesn't return. Abu Abdullah goes after his son. He enters the tent. Imagine he sees Ali Akbar in the middle and the women and the children surrounding Ali Akbar. The children Fatima, Sukayna, Ruqayya and Lady Zainab with them. Perhaps they were all saying to him, Ila man takiluna wa anta dhahib. Who do you leave us to? Oh Ali Akbar, after you. Ali Akbar then goes to the battlefield. He attacked and he finished a big number of men from the enemy while reciting Ana Ali ibn al-Husayn ibn Ali Nahnu wa baytillah awla bin nabi طلع يا هلا يحكم فينا ابن الدعي أضربكم بالسيف حتى ينثني ضرب غلام هاشمي علوي. I am Ali, the son of Hussein, the son of Ali. By the house of God we are the closest to the Nabi. By God we shall not be ruled by the wicked. I strike you with my sword with utmost bravery. After some time then Ali Akbar comes back to his father and says, Oh father, the heat and the weight of the armor are exhausting me. I am thirsty, oh father, I am thirsty, oh father. Vay, vay, vay. Pisar Layla, vay, vay. قمر الليلة وای وای داره میره به میدون وایلا آینه روی پیغمبر روی لباش ذکر یا حیدره اهل حرم حالا پشت سرش همه میگن الله اکبر بله به تشنه میره تا میدون میخونه باباش با دل پرخون. What is Hussein saying? ولدی علی ولدي علي ولدي علي ولدي علي ولدي علي ولدي علي. Akbar would go back and fight. And then he would come back tired and thirsty. Some reports say that he would again go back and fight. And he would come back again tired and thirsty. But you know who was more thirsty? Do you know who too was thirsty? Abu Abdullah himself. But what could he do as he listened to Akbar saying, "Oh Father, I'm thirsty"? Abu Abdullah al-Hussein could not tell his son that there was not even a drop of water to drink. Instead the Imam told him, "Asbir ya bunay, asbir ya bunay, فإنها ساعة وستلقى جدك رسول الله." Oh son, it's only going to be a few moments before you meet your grandfather Rasulullah. Go back, my son, go back and continue. He will offer you a drink after which you will never feel any thirst. Akbar goes back to the battlefield. Akbar attacks and resumes fighting until a man came and struck Ali Akbar. Ajarakumullah. It was then that Ali Akbar screamed, "Aba ya Hussein, عليك مني السلام. هذا جدي رسول الله." Oh Father, peace be upon you, this is Rasulullah, my grandfather. Offer me that drink you promised. Ajarakumullah. The enemy surrounded Ali Akbar. فضربوه بالسيوف. They began striking Ali Akbar with the swords. فقطعوه إربا إربا. They cut him to pieces. A narration says Sakina was standing next to Hussein, her father. Sakina says, "I suddenly saw my father Hussein rushing towards the body of Ali Akbar. Waladi Ali, Waladi Ali, my son Ali." They said the Imam, when he reached the body of his son Ali Akbar, he threw himself onto his son and began to cry, "Bunay Ali, Bunay Ali, ala dunya ba'daka al-afa." This world after you is nothing now, Ali. The Imam placed his cheek on Ali Akbar's cheek and said, "Ya Allah, may Allah kill those people who killed you. What made them so bold enough to go against God and violate the honor of His Prophet?" Imam al-Hussein lay down next to Ali Akbar. He embraced him and he put his chest on Ali Akbar's chest. Hamid bin Muslim says, that time when the Imam cried was the first time we saw him cry out loud. Ya kawkaba ma kana aqsar umruhu وكذا تكون كواكب الأسحار. How short-lived a star Akbar was. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. يا الله إلهي إلهي نقسم عليك بالزهراء وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها فرج عنا يا الله 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 يا Allah. Ilahi, we ask you that you may accept our little deeds. Ilahi, we ask you that you may forgive our sins. Ilahi, we ask you that you may accept our du'as. Ilahi, grant the hajat, grant the needs of every needy in this world, especially, Ya Rabbi, everyone attending this majlis and their relatives. Ilahi, grant the quick and speedy and complete recovery to every ill of the mu'mineen and mu'minat, especially people present in this majlis and their relatives. Ya Kareem, Ya Kareem, Ya Shafi, Ya Wafi, Ya Kafi, Ya Mu'afi, Ya Allah. Ilahi, we ask you that you may send your blessings and mercy to all those who passed away, from members of this community, from people present in this majlis and their relatives. Ilahi, we ask you that you may shower them with mercy. Ilahi, they are your guests and you are the best host. Ya Rabbi, elevate their status next to you. Ilahi, we ask you that you may accept our a'mal with 5 times. Amma yujibul muttar, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Amma yujib. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه أما يجيب المضطر ويكشف السوء. For the acceptance of your a'mal and to the souls of the mu'mineen and mu'minat of your relatives, for the shifa of the marda, to the souls of the marhumin of your relatives, to the souls of the shuhada, the ulama, for the preservance of our ulama, for the victory of the oppressed over oppressors around the world, for the victory especially of our dear brothers and sisters in Palestine and everyone who is supporting them. Please recite Surah Al-Fatiha preceded by salawat. ماتم الحسين.